You've worked with a ton of organizations over the years, and you've just, shared an example of how um 360 feedback really shifted behavior in a meaningful way. Um, Tell me a little bit about, what do you see are common ways that 360 data really, I guess maybe share some other examples of where you've worked with clients over the years where that behavior shift has changed. I mean, we're not always going to have the extreme, example of the Nobel Peace Prize winner with, low people
Sure.
results. A lot of times you have people who are just sort of in the middle, right? And so where do you drive that shift in the behavior in a way that adds value to both them in that ecosystem and their, sort of personal sense of growth and development as well?
Sure. So we love the phrase developmentally self-reliant.
Okay.
And our goal is to help leaders become developmentally self-reliant, meaning they understand how to develop their own skills and they take ownership of developing their own skills
That's
on an
great.
ongoing basis. And so we look at 360 feedback as an opportunity not only to help them develop an individual skill,
Mhm.
but to help them develop their overall development competency, their development capability, so that when they're not doing a 360, they can still collect feedback and act on that feedback. So there's a couple things that we try to do in that process. One is the action planning process itself. A lot of times, 360 action planning will be, here's a skill you want to improve. Here's some books that you can read. Here's some training courses that you can go to, and those are good. But it's very easy. It requires the person to take time off the job to do it or do something in their spare time, which disconnects it from the job. And so what they do has got to be connected to their job. So
Right.
essentially, what we developed is a process where once they prioritize the skill that they want to improve, we encourage them to have conversations with coworkers about how to improve that skill.
Hmm.
And the reason we do that is because, let's say a 360 survey says that I need to improve my listening skills.
Okay.
It doesn't tell me if I need to ask better questions, maintain better eye contact, change my body language, not interrupt. There's a whole host of things I can do to improve my listening skills. And the 360 survey hasn't given me that data. It's
Right.
just pointed me in that direction. And so the only way that people can actually learn those skills is to have conversations with people that they work with. So we've developed a process where what we encourage people to do is identify what they want to improve, identify people in their organization who do that well,
Hmm.
and
That's great.
then have a conversation with those people because we don't want them to go back to their raters. Remember, anonymity is really, really important. So we never want them to go back to their raters and say, hey, I got these scores. What score did you give me? How, we absolutely want to avoid that. But I can look around my organization and see who does listening well. And I can go to those people and say, can you coach me a little bit on listening? Um, and there's another interesting thing that happens here because I can take the list of people that I've identified and I can go to my manager and
Right.
I can say to my manager, hey, I'm going to work on my listening skills. Here's some people in the organization I think do it well. Who do you think does it well? Who should I add to the list or should I take some of these people off the list? And that has a really interesting impact on managers because managers are pushed to be coaches. And I've
Mhm.
talked to a lot of managers who say, I feel like a hypocrite coaching because I don't do this skill well. And then my employee comes to me and says, okay, can you coach me on this skill? And I'm struggling with that skill anyway.
Mhm.
This way, it gives the manager an opportunity to provide feedback on the process and coach the employee along the process without having to be a content expert. If they are a content expert, great, they can be on the list, right? And they can give that coaching. So anyway, so what we've tried to do is develop an action planning process that integrates into the workplace without requiring large commitments of time on the part of the people who are supporting the leader, where it's just a very natural conversation process, a natural kind of workflow for both the peers and the managers that are supporting the leader.